views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hi, and welcome to Open BXRX Tuesday on BronxNet, a weekly program providing you the latest information, resources, services, and community efforts taking place locally here in the Bronx and virtually. I'm Kibin, Alleyne, and today is Tuesday, October 12th. Coming up, a COVID shot for young children may be on the way. A pediatric infectious disease specialist discusses the latest on the vaccine. Will children have a different reaction to a COVID vaccine shot? Then, the Bronx Documentary Center's latest exhibit, Urgency Afghanistan, showcases the complicated relationship between America and Afghanistan. How will the curators use images to showcase a harsh reality? After that, a parent coach at Montefiore Health System joins us for discussion about fatherhood in low-income communities and their program, Hero Dads. Are there outside factors that make it harder for low-income fathers? And R&B singer R. Kelly was found guilty after decades of abuse accusations. Have the victims finally received justice? So please stick around. Open BXRX Tuesday starts now. Welcome to Open BXRX Tuesday on BronxNet. I'm your host, Kibin Alleyne, and I'd like to invite you to get social with us at BronxNet TV on Instagram and Twitter, and BronxNet Community Television on Facebook. While public opinion on vaccines remains split throughout the country, a COVID shot for young children may be on the way. Here to discuss the latest on vaccines is Dr. Brenda Anosike, Pediatric Infectious Disease Specialist for the Children's Hospital at Montefiore. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So vaccines remain a controversial topic, but now there's a Pfizer vaccine that could be approved for young children. What are your thoughts on the vaccine expanding to much younger patients?
I think for many people, this couldn't have come fast enough. While we initially thought that COVID did not affect younger children earlier in the pandemic, I think that's becoming less apparently so, as this is no longer the case. Children are getting infected and they're sick. And particularly now with children now, we're seeing that thousands are being hospitalized, likely due to the highly contagious Delta variant, and hundreds have died just in the past few weeks over the time in the pandemic. And I think the second thing is that originally we thought that children were not spreading the disease, but in fact they are, and they can do this whether they're having symptoms or not. So it becomes an important thing where the vaccine becomes an important arsenal in our fight against COVID.
So I like that you mentioned that children can be affected because for a very long time we've been hearing about seniors or people with pre-existing conditions. Can you just compare, does it look different in a child versus a senior or someone with a pre-existing condition?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's not it's for children. The range is quite expansive. They can be well appearing to having very mild disease, very similar to adults as well, to having very severe disease, and in fact have significant complications, life-threatening complications. So it's not very clear as to who is more at risk than others, except in particular patients who are high-risk conditions, immunocompromised conditions. But for the most part, children are not discriminated in terms of this infection as are adults.
Now, according to CNBC, Pfizer submitted initial COVID vaccine trial data to the FDA for kids ages 5 to 11. I'm curious as to why it starts at 5 and not younger. Do issues arise when you vaccinate children younger than 5 years old?
Yeah, I mean, the trials that are going on right now, in fact, are involving a number of age groups. And just that the data for children between 5 to 11 is out. Currently, for example, Pfizer is running a separate trials for the COVID vaccine in children's 5 to 11. That's what we know about so far. But they're also running it from children ages 2 to 5 years of age. and also children from 6 to 2 years of age. And the difference is because they're looking to see how the vaccine at various different doses for those specific age groups, how it changes for the different development and growth of those specific age groups. So that's the reason why there is nothing out per se on children less than 5, but the research is certainly ongoing.
Now, are these children getting a completely different vaccine from those that are 12 years and older?
No, the vaccine is actually quite the same. It's actually identical to the adults. And in fact, the ones that we're giving to children from 12 to 15 years of age. The only difference is that it's the dose. We all know that children are not small adults, even though some children want to act like adults, but they're not. And so we want to make sure that the doses are appropriate for the child, safe for the child, giving the minimum side effects for the child.
Now, what is this process expected to look like? What can parents who have very young children expect to happen when they eventually possibly go in to get their child vaccinated?
Yeah, this is a rigorous scientific process that the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, takes extremely serious. There are scientists who look at the data that is presented to them by the companies such as Pfizer, Moderna, of the likes, and they really look to see, they screen out and sift out anything that could be potentially be missed by the companies when they were reviewing the data themselves. And so we know that children are our babies. And so we want to be absolutely sure that we're not making any missteps. And this may be a process that takes a while, but usually avoids any sort of issues in the long run.
Now, many of us know the concept of vaccines for kids has always raised concerns. It's always been very controversial. And it's been that way since before the pandemic. Why do you think some parents are hesitant to vaccinate their children?
Yeah, I mean, I think despite the evidence that the vaccines are safe, the truth of the matter is that most parents are just worried. They're worried, and understandably so. And I think it's a fear of what is not known, the newness of the vaccine, the speed at which the vaccine came into the market, and just not knowing what the future outcomes are. So it's understandable where parents are having some questions about that. But from our experience and from my experience is that parents want to know more. And so it is our job as pediatricians to do just that, provide them as much information as possible.
And so I like that you kind of touched on a little bit. I wanted to say, what are some ways people can combat that, whether it's, a friend who may be a little bit on the fence or, a doctor, how can people combat this?
Yeah, I think having to speak with someone you trust that you're comfortable with. Your pediatrician can be certainly a first line, but also a trusted member of your community as well that has the knowledge. Even a family or friend who has been through the vaccine and their children have received the vaccine, that might be helpful. We want to just keep the conversation non-judgmental, understanding and recognizing the doubts and the concerns that parents have as well, because it's a shared decision making process that overall impacts the care of your child. And so we just want to make sure that they feel comfortable, who they're speaking with.
Now, if the vaccine is approved for younger children, what will that mean for safety in our schools?
I think as a pediatrician, our primary goal is to do what's in the best interest of our kids, and that's really to be safe and to be in school, learning in a comfortable setting. So whatever we can do to try to create that it would be important. And vaccine is certainly a good step in the right direction to do that.
Now, I want to know just from your experience, does the idea of a vaccine coming from children, does it make things easier for you as a pediatrician?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's because it sort of removes a lot of the concerns that parents have. As I mentioned earlier, that the COVID virus, it has the propensity to spread amongst gatherings. And the school setting is certainly not a setting that we would want to miss. So I think having to have that as an arsenal, the vaccines, it sort of mitigates the risk of spread in a school setting, and also prevents the child having to have long-term complication as it relates to the infection. So that helps us as pediatricians because we can avert some of those things. They don't have to see me after the fact. We can now do things more preventative.
Now, young children aren't the only ones who are going to be receiving a shot. Booster shots have been added to the current set of vaccinations. What is the booster shot and who qualifies for it?
Yeah, the booster shots is essentially just an additional COVID vaccine shot outside of the two-dose series. And it is intended to enhance the body's immune response to the virus. There are certain populations that are currently approved to receive the booster, not children just as of yet, but usually the more vulnerable populations. Currently now, it has been approved in those who are more than 65 years of age, those who are 50 and have medical high-risk conditions, and then also in those who are greater than 18 years of age who live in a long-term care facility or they're immunocompromised. And then also those who are working in the front lines, i.e. healthcare providers. So the CDC has a really well laid out list of those who are considered to be high-risk persons that can receive this booster.
Now, I just want to add that I know a lot of people, this was a big step for them to get the vaccine. Why is there a need for a booster shot on top of that?
Yeah, that's the question. So I think the reason is because, as we all know, this pandemic has really had ever-changing moments, and we're doing our best efforts to sort of beat the curve and beat the surge, so to speak. And with the new variants that are out there, and with the new populations of patients that it's affecting, we're learning more, we're doing more, and we're having to do things that are necessary to try to keep abreast of what's going on. The booster shots are not a new phenomenon. We see it with other childhood vaccines that we've all received. We've gotten the pneumonia vaccine, we've gotten the hepatitis B vaccine, we've gotten the polio vaccine. These are all vaccines that we've used boosters for, and all of which are things that we don't even talk about because of how effective they are.
Now, the addition of booster shots have given some anti-vaxxers more confidence to say regular vaccines don't work. Can you just explain briefly the science behind that and, just what are your overall thoughts on that idea?
Yeah, so no one vaccine is 100% effective. We would like it to be, but it's not. And so again, doing our best efforts to try to follow what the organism is doing, the virus is doing, such that we can cover our bases for it is really the goal. And the goal really here is perhaps it's obviously the first thing is to prevent transmission. But the major goal that we're looking here is to try to avoid severe disease. And that's what this vaccine has demonstrated thus far. It prevents severe disease and also hospitalizations and even death. And so that is really what our main specific goal is for these booster vaccines, while we're trying to learn more as time goes by to make these vaccines a lot more effective.
Now, where can people go to make sure they're making the best decisions for their families in regards to vaccines and boosters?
Oh, I would say the first line, no dig to me as a pediatrician, but definitely your doctor. Go and see your doctor. I've had the same doctor for many, many years myself, and it's someone whom I trust. I would say that would be the first line. And then perhaps your provider, if they're not able to provide the information by themselves, they can certainly be able to provide you resources online or in your community.
All right. Well, doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption
of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting
to the new reality.
Reporting from Bronxnet, this is Trans.
Welcome back. Through photos, words, and multimedia, the Bronx Documentary Center gives insight on the tumultuous relationship between America and Afghanistan with Urgency Afghanistan. Here to talk to us about the exhibition is Michael Kamber, founder and executive director for the Bronx Documentary Center, and Cynthia Rivera, exhibition manager for the Bronx Documentary Center. Thank you both for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
So, Michael, you're no stranger to BronxNet, but for those who don't know, can you start off by briefly telling us about your organization, the Bronx Documentary Center?
Yeah, sure. We're a nonprofit. We teach photography and journalism to people all over the Bronx. We've been here for 10 years, and we've got a whole variety of classes for people between the ages of 11 up into, we've got seniors who are in the 80s who are taking classes from us. So we're here. We've got a location down here by the hub on 151st Street. And we've got a great photo library here. We've got a dark room and just all kinds of exhibitions. We do exhibitions all year round.
So before we jump into talking about the exhibition, we're going to go back a little. I understand, Michael, you have some background working in Afghanistan. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it brought you here today?
Yeah, sure. I started working in Afghanistan just after 9/11. I was originally working for the Village Voice, and I went immediately to Pakistan and then into Afghanistan as the Taliban was actually falling, or they were actually being defeated, and the Northern Alliance, which was supported by the Americans, took power. So that was 2001, and then later I was working for the New York Times, and I went back in, I think 2008, 2009, 2010. Through there, I made a number of trips.
So Urgency Afghanistan is a photographic exhibition in progress at the Bronx Documentary Center that will showcase the work of several photojournalists who covered America's 20-year war. Cynthia, what can viewers expect to see when they walk in?
So when you first walk into the space, which is where Mike is sitting right now, to your right, you get the wall text, which is an explanation or a brief explanation of what happened over the past 20 years, which starts with the events of what happened in 2001. And then it briefly explains what happened during that time. And when you move to your left, there's a timeline across the entire top of the gallery on the left side of the wall. And it takes you from 1996 actually all the way up until August of 2021. And we've kept that kind of open so that we can continuously update as events and things happen throughout time. But basically from 1996 up until 2021, each year we give, obviously not every event, but we have these main events that have happened each year throughout the past 20 years. So it takes you through text throughout that timeline, and then on the wall underneath it, there are images, not from every single year, but there are images throughout that time that kind of show you what was happening visually during that time. And then in the middle of the room, which is directly behind Mike, there are two hanging panels. And those are actually the most recent events that happened, like after the Taliban took power again. So there are images behind Mike that are from August, and actually some from September, the very beginning of September. And then the panel that's in the back of the room is mostly June, July, and August. And then there's a corner of the room there's a projection, and you can hear the audio of a couple of photographers that Mike has interviewed more recently and in the past of their experiences being war photojournalists and their experience in Afghanistan because they've traveled there multiple times. So just what they've experienced being in war and then obviously being in that particular war.
So I think you mentioned it a little bit, but the Bronx Documentary Center's new series offers a real-time response to worldwide events. What is the process of quickly bringing all of these elements together to tell this story?
Well, we reached out to a number of people. We have a lot of friends in Afghanistan, both Afghans and Americans and European journalists that are working there. So we immediately reached out. We had wanted to do something around 9/11, and then when we saw the historic collapse of the country, America had a very abrupt withdrawal in August, and the country literally collapsed in about 10 days, which is really extraordinary from a historical point of view. And we thought we just got to do something. So we reached out to our friends who are photographers, and they immediately began to send us images through email. And we put the whole show together in a week. We didn't spend a lot of money. We just put it up with, push pins. We printed it all in house and got it up on the wall with captions. And it's not a fancy exhibition, but it is really full of information and it looks great.
So you're also always finding ways to keep it innovative as well as interactive at times. So you will receive images from photographers currently in Afghanistan, like you mentioned, and will update the show in real time. Why did you want to include this feature to your show?
Well, I think a lot of museums plan their shows, sometimes 2 or 3 years in advance. And we feel that it's critical that we can bring information to the Bronx community in real time. People should know what's happening right now. You can come in and see photos that were taken a couple of weeks ago, and that makes a huge difference. It will still be relevant in a number of years, but now is when we really need to be talking about these issues.
It's also, sorry, can I add one thing?
Yeah.
I think it's also important for us to show the accumulation of work throughout time. And obviously these photos, a lot of them are images that have been in newspapers and in the New York Times or something that you see on TV. But it was important for us to have that all together in one room with all of the information that contextualizes what's happening. And since we're having it up for a longer period of time, for about 2-3 months, it gives people more time to sit with the work and fully understand and critically think for themselves as to what is happening, because it's not something that you really get to do when the news is happening so fast.
So the photographs included will cover the American invasion, Afghan women's struggle for civil rights, the current resurgence of the Taliban, and so much more. What do you hope people attending will take away from this?
Well, we find that especially a lot of young people don't have any memory of 9/11, and they know very little about the war in Afghanistan. Despite the fact that there are a lot of people from the Bronx who have actually served in the military in Afghanistan. And we're really hoping to give people a historical context and really to get some debate and some discussion going. We've got a number of public events around this. We just had an event the other night with Victor Blue. He's in Afghanistan now, and he did a Zoom with us, and we did an event that was a live event and is on YouTube. But we're hearing from somebody who's there out on the streets every day, and we feel like that's really valuable. We just want people to understand. I mean, this is a war that the American public spent trillions of dollars on this war. We lost thousands and thousands of Americans were killed there, and a lot more Afghans were killed. And we should be having a discussion about this. It's a historic defeat, absolutely historic defeat for America. And there should be a public conversation about this. We shouldn't just forget about it.
So the exhibition opened on September 11th. What has the response been like from the community, especially on a day where we often tend to think of our own traumatic experience?
Do you want to answer that, Cynthia, or I will if you. Okay, I'll answer it. So I think the I mean 9/11. It's just every year. It's such a tough anniversary for us. And I mean the firehouse, Engine 41, right on our corner. Lost 6 firefighters there. I mean there are a lot of people from our Bronx community that were killed on 9/11. So it's really a tough day. And I think in a way it was good to open the exhibition and be able to have people here and mark the anniversary, especially because it's the 20th anniversary of the attacks.
So to start wrapping things up, I covered your Trump Revolution exhibition back in 2019, and it is very clear your center does not shy away from things that can be often hard to digest. Why is it important for you to tell these stories in their truest form, even if it's uncomfortable to face?
Well, I think, let's see. I mean, I think this is really the foundation of democracy is good journalism, documentary work where people can come together, look at work, have discussions with the artist, with the photographers. I think that's really what makes America great, is to confront history and discuss it and participate in it. That's part of our mission here. I don't know if Cynthia has anything to add to that.
And then it's very similar to what he was saying, but I think it's also for us, like the basis of what we do here is to the best of our ability in talking about the truth of what happens in all these different places and all of these different conflicts. And a very big part of that truth are not things that are like happy or exciting to look at, but they are what keeps it as like this well-rounded story. And for us, that's what's most important in telling all aspects of the story. Like it's not just happy things. There are very difficult struggles that a lot of people go through, and that a lot of, like in this case, in the war, it's not something that we see every day, and it's something that here you can just like turn off the TV or not read the newspaper and you don't have to deal with it. And for us, it's really important to show that and to have those conversations here, because that's what this space is for. Because all in all, it does affect us because it affects the world and that affects us, and that's important for us to talk about.
How long will the exhibition be open, and how can people get more involved and support your organization?
So the exhibition is open until November on the 14th, and anyone can get more involved by going to our website at bronxdoc.org and going to our volunteers page. We have a lot of opportunities of volunteering for our events, volunteering for our library, which is a public library. And then there's also opportunities for being involved in photography in black and white. In our dark room, we have open lab hours. There are multiple opportunities just throughout the year.
All right. Well, Michael, Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. It's our pleasure.
We'll be right back with more Open BXRX Tuesday. welcome back. Healthy, empowered, resilient, and open are key words for Montefiore's free program designed to empower low-income fathers. In partnership with BronxWorks, Hero Dads encourage fathers to achieve family and financial success. Joining us for discussion is Dr. Moshe Moeller, an Associate Program Director and Parent Coach at Montefiore Health System, and Raymond Rosa, a Hero Dad. Raymond, Dr. Moeller, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
So I touched on it a little bit, but can you go into further detail about Hero Dads?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, Hero Dad stands for healthy, empowered, resilient, and open. And these are core concepts that we want our fathers to learn throughout the program. And, as research shows that fathers, when they're involved in their children's lives, they provide such a great impact over the whole family in general, and especially the children. As parents, we want to be able to be positive role models for our children so that they can achieve the best that they can in the world. So we provide parent and relationship workshops to help them with their communication skills and with their parenting skills, in addition to employment services, employment workshops, and other resources for these fathers.
So can you also tell us how did this program actually begin?
Sure, yeah. So as part of Montefiore Medical Center, uh, for over 15 years, we've been working with couples and families, providing parenting and relationship education in our Supporting Healthy Relationships program. And so we saw that there was a need for fathers, for fatherhood programming as well. And so, as a dad myself and as a fatherhood researcher, this is a real passion of mine. So, I was really excited when we had the opportunity to be able to bring this program to life.
And then can you just tell us how do you decide who is eligible to join the program?
Sure, yeah. So our program is designed for dads who don't have custody of their children or may have limited custody or don't necessarily live with their children full time. We also don't necessarily expect uh, men to be biological fathers of their kids. Sometimes we have grandparents or other people who feel like they have a significant impact or role in a child's life. They could also join the program. They just need to be over the age of 18, and their child has to be at least one under the age of 24. They could join our program.
So Raymond, what inspired you to join this program and how has it changed your life?
One day I was walking by the elevator in the shelter that I live in with my kids, and I seen a flyer up. And I seen there was an incentive. I was thinking that could really help me out. And then I texted, and they contacted me. And as I went through the steps in the program and the workshops, I liked it. It was really empowering. It really helped me out with my kids.
So, Dr. Moeller, I understand you have workshops available that can focus on employment. Can you tell us how your program actually helps dads looking for employment while providing skills that will help them succeed?
Sure, yeah. So as you said, we're partnered with BronxWorks, who have a really great expertise in employment and workforce development. And so they provide employment and financial workshops for our dads. They also provide vocational training and career coaching and job placements. And so in these workshops, we teach them how to communicate effectively with their coworkers, with their bosses, help them navigate difficult situations at work, also help them brush up on their resumes, any skills that they may need to apply for those jobs, and then help them really search for what jobs they're looking for, because we know what jobs are out there. We have lots of different partnerships with different employers, and so we can connect them to the right places. So our dads can really feel supported financially in our program.
So some of your workshops also feature parent coaches. Dr. Moeller, you're a parent coach yourself. Tell us about this experience.
Yeah, so parent coaches is a great opportunity for dads to have an individual one-on-one interaction with a mental health professional. So I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and we also have several other mental health professionals who provide parent coaching for our dads. And so we can focus on relationship difficulties they may be facing, some mental health issues or substance use that they may be facing. For example, we had one dad who came into our program who was struggling with substance use, and afterwards he was able to let everyone know that he's been sober, and today he's 90 days sober, so we thought that was a really great success. Another example, in our parent coach sessions, we a lot of our dads come in with difficulties with their co-parents, and so one of our dads, who after he completed his parent coaching, he was interested in doing some family therapy, and then later on he contacted us and told us that he was able to utilize the communication skills that he learned in the program to communicate with his co-parent, and they were able to have a successful trip to Rye Playland with all their kids all together, both him and his co-parent, and that was a really great story for us to share.
So, Raymond, as a parent, what are your thoughts on parent coaches?
I think parent coaches are great. Whenever I needed someone to talk to, they was there to talk to me. And whenever I had a problem, they was always there calling me, making sure that I was good. I mean, for example, there was one time I had issues with my kids, helping me out with chores. And one of my parent coaches helped me out, and we came to an agreement and an understanding to have my kids help me out and, try to help me out with chores instead of me doing all the chores.
And what can you tell us that you've learned about the program, and what can other parents learn from this program?
There's a lot to learn. It helps it helped me understand being a father more than just being there for my kids and being, having to support my kids financially. Also, there's emotional support that has to be done for kids, so it helped me all around.
And so, why is it important to have a program like this available to families in the Bronx?
Well, especially it's good because, sometimes there's fathers that don't really understand what being a father is, or they don't want to be there for the kids, or there's young fathers that, they're just running the streets or, not worrying about their children. And I think it helps out a lot, a really lot. It really helps out a lot.
Dr. Moeller, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but there's so many programs that focus on fatherhood in low-income communities. Why are active dads so important, to a family?
Yeah, so I think these programs are really should be everywhere in every city, in every community, because over the past several decades, researchers and clinicians have realized how important fathers are in their children's lives. It used to be that people thought that dads didn't have any impact on the development of their children, but now we see that they have a really, really important impact on their children's lives. And so therefore we really want to make sure that dads know how to be able to be good parents. A lot of times dads grew up in communities or in families where they didn't have a parental figure or a fatherhood, a father type figure, and so we want to be able to show them that, even if you didn't have a father growing up, you can still be a really great father. A lot of times they come to us, and it's not because they don't care about their children. They really do. They just don't know how to do it. And so we want to help them, empower them, that they have the abilities and they're able to be great fathers in their children's lives.
Do you think it's difficult for fathers in low-income families to achieve family and financial success? And are there any other factors that play a larger role?
Well, I think that dads have lots of challenges. And, they can come in, maybe they didn't have a father growing up, but, they have the abilities, they have the strengths to be able to do the best that they can. And, we're here to help them be the best dad they can be. As we said, sometimes there might be substance use difficulties, or maybe they had a traumatic childhood, but we see it as them being resilient. That's one of our major themes. Like, dads are resilient and they can come back from anything, and they're able to be stronger in the long run.
So how can dads who are looking for that support become a better parent and get involved?
Yeah, so dads can join us. They can text the phone number that we have. down here, right? Text HERO to 917-886-2512, and a recruiter will call you right away. And just wanted to let everyone know this is a free program for all dads. We also provide up to $450 of incentives. It's a really great opportunity. And we also provide all of our services in English and in Spanish. So we really want to be able to provide this for all dads in the Bronx.
And Raymond, what advice would you give to a dad who's possibly on the fence about joining this program?
To join, it's a good program. They should definitely join.
Okay. And Dr. Moeller, I understand that Hero Dads also works with local or organizations. How can they get more involved?
Yeah, so we have lots of partnerships with different organizations and agencies, and they can email us. They have the email address also under flashing under here. They can email us at herodads-uba@montefiore.org. Again, that's it's not here, but herodads-uba@montefiore.org, or they can go to the website and find more information there.
All right. Once again, I want to thank you both for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. It's a real pleasure. Thanks, Raymond.
All right, thank you, guys.
Hi, guys. And look, Raymond's wearing our T-shirt, Hero Dads. Everyone's gonna get a T-shirt. Yeah, it's great. Thanks, guys.
We'll be right back with more Open BXRX Tuesday.
If you're struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311. That's 833-511-0311.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, and they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting
To the new reality.
Reporting from BronxNet, this is
Welcome back. R&B singer Robert Sylvester Kelly, famously known as R. Kelly, was found guilty of all 9 counts against him, including racketeering and 8 violations of an anti-sex trafficking law known as the Mann Act. This comes after 25 years of allegations of R. Kelly's abuse against Black women and girls. As a warning, this segment will discuss issues of sexual assault against women and minors. Here to further discuss is Ival Grant Williams. Ival, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So this is a huge moment for people who spoke out against the many crimes of R. Kelly. How did you feel when you heard the news that he could possibly face 10 years to life in prison?
Well, when I heard of the verdict, what was once flaring outrage turned into just a gasp and also a sigh of wow. Because these women risked the rejection of their community and just violation of their sense of self to bring about change. This verdict was, it's really a chance for them to reach for something more, not just for themselves, but for other girls around the world. I mean, this is personal, not just for me as a woman, but for men who have girls and women in their lives that they love. And, they don't want to see them suffer at the hands of another who has an unfair advantage.
Do you at all feel justice was finally served?
I'm relieved to hear that the girls who were abused were brave. I mean, they endured intense cross-examination. They re-experienced their trauma and just, they reopened those wounds, right? To give voice to girls who may be having a similar experience. So fairness, justice, and women's rights have been uplifted by the verdict.
Now, why do you think it took so long despite countless amounts of evidence and accusations that stretched across decades?
Justice takes time. I mean, there are offenses against individuals and groups of people that has dragged on for decades and even hundreds of years before justice was served. So there is due process, and it just takes time. I mean, we hear this expression, open shut case, but even those, right, get opened decades later, only to find out that the innocent was prosecuted. So I trust that the prosecution and everyone involved on both sides actually took the time needed for a fair and just result of the case.
Now, I also like to add that many people have written about this and feel that the race of the victims play a huge part. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't really think a whole lot about, or haven't really thought a whole lot about the race of the victims. I was just more concerned about the age of the victims. I am more concerned about the fact that these are children. They are now women, right? They are now adult women, but that was really more of my focus. It's the crimes, the allegation of the crimes against women and children, not so much the race of the individuals.
Now, in the age of social media, people amplify their voices for the empowerment of those who are often silenced. Can you explain the importance of hashtags like Mute R. Kelly or the Me Too movement?
I mean, as you said, hashtags can amplify voices. So it has proven to be useful, and it helps to take the voice of a few to an audience of many. I mean, hashtags can mobilize action, right? It can also create a space for the like-minded. Hashtags can help to remove the barriers of location, age, and access, right? A hashtag can start a movement, a societal shift. So there has been momentous progress because of hashtags. I mean, who would have thought?
Now, despite having organizations like Me Too, do you feel that there are too many enablers in the entertainment industry?
I mean, I take this case personally because having your strength underestimated is common for girls and women worldwide. The smile of an older gentleman, right, that makes you feel beautiful in the moment as you walk by, but then violated just minutes later, right? When you remember that he's old enough to be your dad, your uncle, or even like your dad's friend. So this is not a strange experience for girls and women. In my lifetime, that experience is not discussed openly. But because of these young girls who are now adult women, we can discuss it loud and bold enough for girls of the current and even future generations to come. You know, they won't have to have uncomfortable experiences in silence. You know, I believe that many women and men took this case just as personally as I did.
Now, throughout the discourse of Kelly's crimes, many people brought up victim blaming. Can you just explain what that is and how we see it play out in our society?
Oh, I mean, victim blaming says you're the victim, you deserve it. It devalues the person. It sounds like, you know, you provoked this. You have problems. Why did you stay? Why didn't you say anything? Maybe you were under the influence, or you shouldn't have this, or you shouldn't have that. It's just you, right? So again, in my lifetime, judgment is a norm. You know, when you judge, you form an opinion, you make a decision, and you do it with authority. So throughout this case, it is no surprise that there was much victim blaming. You know, it is a norm, but hopefully we are learning, right, as people to empathize, because judgment and blaming threatens, well, you know, it threatens your well-being.
Now, when we add in the age of the victims, I think it makes it a little bit harder to grasp that people were still somehow victim blaming these girls. You know, what are your thoughts on that when it comes to like people who are minors?
Well, I believe that for a minor, right? Again, these are children. And so I would want to believe that around the world, no one wants to hurt children. And so when we think about the age of the victims, you know, earlier you asked about the race of the victims. And I said that, you know, I wasn't really thinking about the race. I was just thinking about their age. And I was imagining what it was like for me when I was 8 or 10 or 12. And you have big dreams, right? And when you meet someone who you think can help you actualize those dreams, they too become a part of that dream. And so I just imagine that for these young girls, they were embarking upon a journey that they couldn't even imagine was going to be the absolute opposite of their dreams.
And then, you know, just speaking on victim blaming, what can we do to kind of change that language? Because it can be so ingrained in just like normal everyday talking. What can we do to just kind of stop that and shift the focus and, you know, the responsibility on the aggressor or the abuser?
I mean, we can just help girls and women find their power, right? And take back control in situations that may leave them feeling, you know, whether it's isolated, intimidated, controlled, punished, shamed, humiliated. You know, we have to continue to offer support, give a listening ear, affirm them, you know, and let them know that their experiences and their emotions are valid. You know, I hope we can all take sort of that burning sensation we get, you know, from unfairness and turn it into fuel. You know, I'm hoping that just the world community will demonstrate their incredible strength and grace and advocate for the issues that impact women and children.
Do you think this verdict will send a powerful message to men in the industry like Mr. Kelly?
Do I think it will send a powerful message? Definitely. I think the message that will be sent is that women are brave, right? And that they can have the last word. And when I say the last word, that they should not suffer in silence. It also sends the message that justice can prevail. It also sends the message that there is hope. You asked me about a message to the men. I'm not even just thinking about the message to the men. I'm just thinking about the message to the world, that women and children are to be protected, that they are the essence of humanity. And so that's the message that I think this verdict sends.
Now, I'd like to get your thoughts on on people who still support him or choose to separate the art from the artist. Do you feel it's dangerous to do such a thing?
I'm thinking about music here. Music is an international language, right? Music has no friends, music has no enemies. Music can fill the world with happiness and togetherness. There are issues that we support and we rally around, and then there's issues that we choose to witness and not necessarily become a part of. As humanity, we don't always act in unison. I don't know how to separate the person from the crime, but I do hope that the voice of girls and women will be resounding and it will take on a tune of its own. I imagine that while on the dance floor, during celebrations around the world, people may still dance to his songs, right? But some people might not. They may sit down. But more importantly, I hope we all embrace crimes against children and women as if it's our own.
Now that he has been convicted, what can we do to support, those survivors of assault?
Similar to what I said before, I think we really do need to help girls and women to find their power, and to realize that they are strong, that their voices deserve to be heard, and to affirm them, that their emotions are valid. I think that's the biggest piece here, that many times as women, our emotions are invalidated, right? And so you have to trust your gut. And you have to know that, again, that burning sensation that you get when you feel that something is unfair, you have to use that to really fuel that voice of yours and just speak out, and speak boldly. And for those who are listening, to be allies and to join in amplifying those voices.
Ival, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That's all for our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kibin, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.